at a ball. Genevieve was nowhere in sight. The unceasing sound of the waves drew his attention back to the beach. He knew the source of his restlessness, and she was somewhere in that ballroom wearing a dusty pink gown. The same color, he realized with a start, as the first time he'd seen her in a ballroom, 1.5 years ago now, when he had figured out that she wasn't a girl play-acting at being a reporter, trying to make it in the big city, but that she was, like him, one of New York's elite Astor 400. He'd be leaving the day after tomorrow, Daniel reminded himself. You can make it another 2 days. Daniel rubbed his hand across his jaw, thinking. It was less about the time he had to spend in Newport, which was pleasant enough. More than pleasant, really. He hadn't spent many summers in this enclave of upper-tier society, but there was no denying the refreshing quality of the place. The salty air, the wild ocean, the sailing, the less restrictive schedule, all suited him well. No, it wasn't Newport itself that had him anxious. It was the 2 unpleasant tasks he had to undertake before he could leave. First, he had to inform his best friends and hosts, Rupert and Esme Milton, that he would be leaving. He hated to do it. It was their first season here as a married couple, newlyweds, as their honeymoon had been postponed, and so far they were a grand success. Rupert was typical Rupert, the same incorrigible charmer, but marriage had softened him somewhat, smoothed out some of his rougher edges. No, not just marriage. Esme had done that. And Esme was coming more and more out of her shell, her confidence building with each passing day. She and Rupert had even talked of hosting a party at the season's end, the prospect of which would have caused the Esme of 1 year ago such stress she would have turned a violent shade of pink and not been able to utter a syllable. But she was blossoming right before their eyes. Somehow Rupert's innate confidence gave her confidence as well. They were a good match, better than anyone, including themselves, could have anticipated. And they would be sorely disappointed by his abrupt departure, though, once he explained, he hoped they would understand the necessity. That was the first unpleasant task. The second was informing Genevieve he would be returning to Manhattan with her. He could already anticipate her bristling reaction and the argument that would ensue. Her protests that she was perfectly capable of handling herself, that she was a grown woman, that she didn't need a minder. All of which were true, none of which would dissuade him. Genevieve was returning to New York to investigate a potential murder, and, despite her tremendous capabilities, he wasn't going to let her do so alone. Not after what they'd been through together, a mere few weeks prior. And just like that, he was there again. His mind had been doing this of late, sending him when he least expected it back to that moment, deep in the bowels of the city's gasworks, barely conscious and bloody, staring down the cold, deadly barrel of Tommy Meade's gun. It was so real that for a moment the noise of the waves, the brine-scented breeze, the moonlit beach all disappeared, and he felt again the pain in his head from where it had been hit, the same in his gut from being kicked, the nausea of contusion. He could see the dim, distant stars shining indifferently behind Tommy's head, feel how wet his shirt was from his own blood. He could see, clear as if he were looking at a photograph, the mental picture of Genevieve he had clutched in his mind, of her recovering after their treacherous swim through the East River, fleeing gun runners. It was the image by which he'd chosen to take his last breath, as he truly had believed he was on the verge of dying. It was the moment he'd realized how complete his love was for her. But he wasn't ready to risk telling her, not yet.